Yo, what's up, YouTube? We here with another reaction video. We're about to watch I'm not sure if this is just a theory or whatever. Yeah, pretty much a theory, but it's called "This Little Nightmares Mystery Took 7 Years to Solve." So, it's by this channel here, which um I don't know if I know how to say that. If I'm being real with you, Terrico, Ter, Terricho. I don't know. Yeah, I just suck at pronouncing stuff, so just bear with me with that. But hey, I'm gonna put the link to this video and probably a link to the channel in the description. Y'all make sure y'all go follow this channel. If you like the video, go follow. You know what I'm saying? But let's see what they're talking about though. Let's see what they're talking about.
Little Nightmares as a series is full of unsolved mysteries. There are plenty of details that are just so secretive
By
that
the
no
way, like if you don't know anything about Little Nightmares, it's a horror game. It's a horror game about a little kid, which they're probably gonna explain in this video anyways. But I've watched gameplay. I've never played this game. Maybe I will on my gaming channel if I ever get the game. But I enjoy this game. I enjoy the theories about this game. I might even react to some of those theories. But yeah,
no one can truly
just
figure
want to
out
say
what
that.
they mean. But I recently played through Little Nightmares again 7 years after its release. This time I think I might have finally solved not one, but several of its unsolved riddles, including a whole new story involving the lady, the
Alright.
identity of the hanging man, why the granny was locked in the depths, who this child really is, and even more. Welcome, theorists, to another Terror Code Theory. Today we're diving back into one of my personal favourite series to theorise over, Little Nightmares, the series that started my theory career, in fact. Now, I've been planning on getting back into this series for a while, especially now that Little Nightmares 3 is officially confirmed. But I wasn't going to
Wait,
jump
is it
back in
out? Is
until
it
a little
out
bit
though?
closer
I
to
wonder
the
if it
launch
is.
date
I
of
don't
the
know.
game. However, after playing through the first game once again with a lot more theory experience, I think I've connected a bunch of dots that I never once considered before, and this theory is just so juicy that I just had to share it. In fact, I think I've solved one of the biggest and longest standing mysteries in the entire series. For those who have never played Little Nightmares or those who need a refresher, let me bring you back up to date with the story. Little Nightmares is a little bit
Right,
weird.
he is gonna
Nothing
explain
really seems
the
to make any
story.
sense. The game doesn't tell you who you are, why you're here, what this world is, and why its inhabitants are so warped and twisted. We now know that the games are set in a place called the Nowhere, and the first one takes place on a sinister giant submersible structure known only as the Maw. You can probably guess why it's called that, it's literally a giant mouth, but these lumbering creatures known as the guests board the Maw to eat as much food as they physically can before it sinks once again. Now, you might think this sounds like a pretty good deal, an all you can eat buffet cruise, but those who enter the Maw never leave. Once the Maw has had its fill, it sinks back to the depths, only appearing once a year, always at the same time, but never in the same place. This operation is overseen by the mysterious shadowy figure known only as the Lady. During the game, you play as a small girl in a yellow raincoat known as Six. You don't know who you are or why you are here, but as you make your way through this place, you quickly realize that most things here are out to get you. First, you have to battle your way past Roger the janitor, arguably the friendliest of all the enemies in the series. He doesn't quite kill you, he just forcibly imprisons you. Luckily, he's fairly easy to avoid on the basis that he is blind. Something we learn in
Yeah.
the prequel, Little Nightmares 2, is likely due to the fact that we, well, roasted his doctor alive. Once past him, you make your way through to the kitchens. This is the home of the twin chefs. They do everything together. They work together, do
Yep.
chores
I
together,
remember
sleep
them.
together, and oh my god, they even. Why? Why?
Hey.
These chefs are definitely more aggressive than Roger, and this time they will kill you, but at least they make sure none of you goes to waste. Clearly, there is a lack of food in this place. The third major area of the game has you slipping past the guests. They seem mostly normal, happy to eat their food, even if
Mostly.
some of it is raw, but as soon as they notice you, they turn completely feral. They will literally climb over each other to try and eat you. It's not like they don't have enough food, so I guess they really like menu option number 6. But it isn't just the
That's
guests
kind
that
of
have
funny.
this ravenous appetite. Six herself has a slowly growing hunger throughout the
Oh
game.
yeah.
At first, she eats bread given to her by this boy, but as this craving progresses, she moves on to more questionable snacks. At one point, she
Yep.
becomes so hungry that she, with no hesitation, feasts on a live rat. Then later, with one of the most heartbreaking moments in gaming, when a gnome is offering Six this sausage, she instead
Mhm.
tears into the gnome himself.
And
If
then you
this
figure out
moment
who
wasn't bad enough,
who
later
that
in the
gnome
DLC,
was
this
too.
specific gnome
Yeah,
is
in the
actually this
DLC.
boy known as the Runaway Kid. More on that later. It's around this time that we also learn why none of the guests ever leave. The food cycle of the moor is actually pretty messed up. The children we see being held captive in the early areas of the game are wrapped up and sent to the kitchens, the implication being that the guests are feeding on children among other things, but they themselves end up on the menu. Once the guests are full, they are taken to these areas to sleep. Now, there is a theory that the food is drugged, or perhaps the lady casts a magic spell to keep them asleep. But either way, once they are asleep, they are chopped up, turned into meat, and fed to the next load of guests to arrive. Ah, the circle of life, or death, I guess.
Through all the gameplays I've never seen that scene right there of them chopping
The
the guests.
final area of the game has you facing off against the lady. She is dressed like a geisha and looks far more normal than the monsters around her, but don't let this fool you. She's the only one who keeps her composure when she spots you, but she does have a dark magic that she can use to fly around, levitate you, and probably worse. The final showdown has Six battling against the lady using one of the only mirrors in the game that isn't broken. Once defeated, the lady lies on the
Yep.
floor, powerless and afraid. Six
Bit right
approaches,
into that
bites
neck
into
meat.
her neck, feeding on her, but also taking her power. Six uses this dark power to walk freely out of the moor, easily killing all of those that stand in her way. The game ends with a new boat arriving at the moor, presumably a boat that Six will board to leave. The ending of the game implying that Six was the little nightmare all along. So that is the basic
Mhm.
premise of the first game, but contained within is a total goldmine when it comes to secrets and lore. There are so many mysteries that still to this day remain unsolved. For one of these mysteries, I need to take you back to the beginning of the game. In one of the very first rooms, we can find the Hanging Man.
Hanging
This
man.
man is one of the very first characters we are ever introduced to, but despite that, we know absolutely nothing
Nothing.
about him. All we can say for certain is what we see. He sways lifeless above a chair and a note. The scene here is pretty much set, but who was he? Who was he writing this note to? This has been one of the longest standing mysteries in the series, and there are, of course, theories for it. One theory is that this is the Thin Man from Little Nightmares 2, the prequel to
Mhm.
this game, but that doesn't really make sense with how that game ends.
Yeah,
Others
it
have
doesn't.
suggested that he could be this man from the portrait in Very Little
Oh,
Nightmares,
could be.
heavily implying that he is the father to the Pretender, the main antagonist of that game. That one is possible, but I have an even more compelling theory, one that as soon as you start to piece together, just really starts to make sense.
Hey, I'm here.
But
I'm
before I
listening, bro.
explain who I
Let
think
me
this man
know.
is, we need to look at another, seemingly separate mystery. Towards the end of the game, Six enters the lady's quarters in order to get a key. In that room were two pictures of two children. Now, these pictures have sparked a bunch of debate within the community. One of the oldest theories in this game is that this portrait represents Six. People speculated that Six was in some way related to the lady. The main point of evidence for this were the resemblance of the hair and the colour of this dress and nightgown being yellow, similar to Six's yellow raincoat. But this
Right?
theory has been pretty solidly debunked. Not only was Six not the original owner of the raincoat, the girl in Very Little
Oh
Nightmares
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah. In
Six
the
only
was it
acquired it
this a mobile game? Was it not a mobile game or something? Well, I believe that was a mobile game.
in Little Nightmares 2, but the devs even came out with a statement that Six and the lady are not related. So if this
Mm,
isn't Six, then
completely
who could it
debunked.
be? Well, I actually think I solved this a long time ago. In a theory I made several years ago, I put forward the idea that this little girl is the one who grew up to become the Granny. This is the aquatic monster that tries to eat the runaway kid in the first chapter of the DLC, The Depths. My main piece of evidence for this one is the dress we can find sitting here on this ledge. This dress looks suspiciously similar to this one, and it's placed here for seemingly no reason. But if this little girl was locked down here, then it would make sense that she would have discarded the
I
dress as
mean,
she grew out of it.
that looks a little different. Like that, the dress on there look like it got like the strap, and then you see the one in this picture. It doesn't have that. Like you know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. I don't know how to explain it for real, but you know what I'm saying.
Her new dress likely came from one of the many bodies that was thrown down here for her to feed on. which is also why it doesn't fit very well. So why was she locked down here? Why is she being kept alive? This makes complete sense if you think about the lady and what she's really doing. In a previous theory, I put forward the idea that the lady might look the most normal, but is actually the most sinister character of all. This entire game is based around hunger. That was what the game was originally going to be called before the devs realized it would be kind of hard to market a game with a name like that, so it was changed to something more easily recognizable. Everything in this game follows that theme of hunger. The guests are hungry, Six has an unnatural hunger, these children are starving, the only character we don't see have a hunger is the lady. But if you look at the evidence, that's actually not true. One
Mm-hmm.
of my oldest theories is that the lady is preserving her youthful looks by performing dark magic. She
Right.
clearly cares about her looks a lot. She is very, very vain. All of the portraits in her quarters show her as being beautiful, and she spends a long time brushing her hair. But the even bigger clue to this comes from the mirrors around this area. There are hundreds of mirrors here, something that points to the looks of the geisha being an important factor. Now, there is actually a lot of evidence to suggest that there used to be many geisha in the mall, but now only the lady remains. But even the lady's design being based on a geisha is a huge hint. Geisha traditionally painted their faces white so they would look better in candlelight. This was before electricity was invented, and their faces would look almost like porcelain. This led to them having perfect skin, almost as if they were created like a work of art. This design philosophy was carried over into Little Nightmares, although this time, rather than makeup, the lady uses a white mask. But in the DLC, we learn that the lady isn't as perfect as she appears. Once her mask is off, we can see her looking into one of the few intact mirrors. Her face in the mirror is completely different to the face we see in game. Whether this is how she sees herself or whether this is her true face without her magic remains to be seen. But we do see that when startled, she loses control for a second and the mirror smashes. That explains all those broken mirrors. I have previously theorized that the lady uses her dark magic to prolong her youthful looks,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets even more sinister than that. In the last chapter of the DLC, we get a closer look into the lady's private quarters. There are strong hints here as to how evil the lady really is. Our first hint is the Shadow Children. These children seem to be made out of shadow, and they look very
Oh,
similar to the lady's
yeah.
magic. They almost look like.
Hold on. Now they are like, they did have the Shadow Children here, which is low-key similar to like in Little Nightmares 2, the glitched out children. I'm just now noticing the similarity between the Shadow Children and the glitched out children. The Mono would like go up to and like hug or whatever. I'm not sure if y'all know
Ghosts. But
about
why
that.
would there be so many ghosts of children in this place? Well, just a short time later, we find our answer. First, we see what looks like a birdcage with the remains of a child inside, and then, near the end of the DLC, the lady catches the runaway kid. She appears to use her magic to draw something out of him, leaving him as nothing more than a gnome. Now, you could interpret this as the lady feasting on his life essence. In fact, this is exactly what Six does at the end of the main game once she's taken the lady's power. Remember,
Yeah.
Six was hungry throughout the majority of the game, so her feasting on their souls like this would make a lot of sense. Throughout the ladies' quarters, we find a lot of evidence of magic tomes, and we see a lot of books that seem to have been rifled through. So it seems likely that the lady learnt her dark magic here. She figured out a way to feed off the life essence of children, keeping her young by stealing their future. Suddenly,
Mm.
all of these shadow children become much more poignant. In fact, we know that when the lady catches the children to feast on their life force, all that is left behind is a gnome. I've already made the theory that gnome was a huge clue. Gnome, spelling no me, as in their individuality, was taken, and all that is left is a husk. The DLC shows that there were a lot of gnomes in the mall, and this scene with the furnace actually foreshadowed the huge twist at the end, although most people miss this creepy detail. Now that I think about it,
I
the
didn't even
fire
notice the
revealing the truth is
shadows.
pretty symbolic. The lady's power is darkness, so naturally fire would be its counter. But both of these things together paint a very bleak picture. The lady has been doing this for a very long
That's a cool
time.
detail,
Remember,
bro.
the Moor only surfaces once a year, so this process has likely been going on for decades, maybe even longer. If this process is preserving her youthful looks, then it stands to reason that it is also prolonging her life. Maybe that's why there are no more geisha left. They all grew old and died, or perhaps the lady killed them all out of jealousy. Who knows? But now this makes the granny theory make even more sense. If the granny is this little girl, then no wonder she has grown old. The lady looks the same age as she always has, but those around her are growing as normal. The granny is the granny now, but she was this little girl all those years ago. So why then did the lady lock her down
Okay.
here? I think that it's pretty obvious.
I mess with that theory though. That's tough. I mess with that one. Like I could definitely see that being possible. You know.
This little girl is the lady's child. Think about those pictures again. These are found in the lady's bedroom, one on the wall and one on the floor with the face
It
scratched
is.
out. These children are obviously close to the lady. Well, why would the lady be close to these ones specifically unless they were her own? Suddenly, it makes sense why she locked the little girl down in the depths. She locked her down there to keep her safe. Yes, it's a miserable life, but leaving her free would only be a temptation every time the lady gets hungry. There is
Yeah.
even more evidence that this girl is the lady's daughter, though. This image shows the little girl once again stood at the lady's side, almost like a family portrait. Again, some people assume that this was Six, but that has pretty much been
Nah.
debunked. I think this is the little girl that grew up to become the granny. This would add so much weight to the
He's
run of the
actually
kid's
cooking.
story. He kills the
Dude, this
granny
is
at the end of the
tough.
first DLC chapter. He kills the lady's daughter. This could explain why the lady was so angry when she saw him compared to how somber and quiet she is when she catches Six. But this picture also contains another massive clue, and I'm kind of embarrassed I never spotted it before. This picture shows the lady in the center with the girl on her right, but there is a space on her left that is empty, as if someone should be there but isn't. That brings us back to the second portrait in her room, the one that has been taken off the
Right.
wall and the face scratched out. These are two different children. So why is the
Right.
second one missing in this portrait, and why is their face scratched out here? In fact, looking at it now, I'm wondering if this child was painted out of this picture. Well, clearly the lady was angry or upset at this child for some reason, but I think I have a great explanation for that one too. This child looks identical to the little girl, but with shorter hair, and they appear to be wearing a nightgown. This one looks more like a boy's nightgown to me, so likely this was her twin brother. The granny's
Mm.
twin brother. You might be able to see where I am going with this one. We've already seen her brother before. That's right,
Wow.
there is actually a
I
ton
think I
of
see.
evidence
Yeah,
to
I think I
suggest
see
that
where he's
the
going.
hanging man is the granny's brother. Let me explain. So if the lady was angry at her son, why? Well, she was angry because he left her. That would explain why he's missing in this portrait. Look at the clothes that this man is wearing. He's wearing very similar clothing to the residents of the Pale City. In fact, he even has a similar color palette to them. Notice the pale blue lighting. In Little Nightmares 2, we even find a secret room that references the first game. We can find this room that has several references to the mall and even has a portrait of the lady on this shelf. Why would someone have a portrait of the lady? Because this is his mother. The hanging man left the mall, left the family business to pursue his own life in the city. But as we now know, the Pale City was not really a great place to live. Even before the residents of the city started going missing, the Pale City was all about work. People would work, come home, watch TV, and repeat. This is the
Mm-hmm.
reason those residents were so desperate for escapism. So after leaving his family home, the boy grew up and became pale, just like the rest of the city's residents. I have yet another piece of evidence to tie this together though. In a secret room on the moor, we can find what looks like a shrine to the lady alongside yet another mystery letter. This
Right.
note could be another letter to the lady from this man. And who would worship the lady like this? Well, you know what they say, mother is God in the eyes of a child. So the boy, now a man, returned to the moor after many years. But once he got back, he realized just how bad things had gotten. Now as an adult, he
Oh,
realized how terrible
those are the yo. Those are the exact same slides.
his mother really was. She locked his sister in the depths, was leading the guests to their slaughter, and worst of all, she was feeding on children to preserve her own youth. All of this was too much for him to bear. He couldn't go back to the Pale City, that city was slowly dying, and he couldn't live with what his own mother had become. So he wrote a letter, and that was that. Perhaps the lady took down his portrait when he left, or perhaps she did it out of anger when he decided to end his pain. If this theory is true, it paints the lady in a whole new light. No wonder she collects so many of those creepy dolls. She is, after all, a mother. An evil witch, yes, but still, that motherly instinct remains. The song she hums was one she used to hum to her own children, one who left, and the other she locked away for her own safety. These shadow children are manifestations of her own guilt. They haunt her, both literally and metaphorically. Perhaps this is why she sees a monster in the mirror. Her face might look young and beautiful on the outside, but deep down she's just as monstrous as those around her, which is why she sobs as she mourns what she used to be. This could also explain why Six using the mirror is what defeats the lady. Six is quite literally, and also metaphorically, forcing the lady to look at what she has become. This would also make the ending of the
Mm.
main game even more impactful. Once defeated, the lady recoils from Six, but she makes no attempt to defend herself. By this point, the granny would also be dead, her last remaining child killed by the runaway kid. She now has nothing left to live for, which is why she finally accepts her fate and lets Six end her suffering. So far, I think this is the best explanation for these characters, but of
Dude,
course,
I'm not gonna
there
lie. Dude, you actually, no, you actually cooked.
is still so
It
much more
it
to
all tied
explore.
together
We
pretty
now have some pretty
nicely,
strong
and
clues about the nowhere, the
that was
world that
really
Little
good. This
Nightmares
is
takes
really good.
place in from the sounds of nightmares, and replaying the second game has given me some fresh ideas too. So if you liked this video and want to see more Little Nightmares content before the third game,
Yo,
let me know down below.
this is really good. This is so good. This is a good theory right here. It felt like there was like literally like almost no loose ends either. I could definitely see this being actually being the actual outcome that they were going for. But AAW video, make sure y'all like and subscribe to this video. Make sure y'all check out the original video, which I'll be putting in the description. So yeah, I'll catch y'all in the next one.